Heads event. We're here every month to talk about career pathways, employability skills, and how to flourish in your first few years in the UK creative industries. So if you're looking for your first job in the industry, or you're looking to support or employ those who are, then the Tern Heads platform is for you. My name is Sam, and we're here today to talk about how to use your illustration skills in the TV industry with our lovely special guest, Katy Streeter. I would ask, if you find our content helpful and you wish to support what we do, then please do tell your friends about us and sign up for free at ternheads.com for more resources as well. I'll put the links in the chat. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Katy to introduce herself and share her tips from her career journey so far.
Amazing. So let me just share my screen. Dun, 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 dun. So as Sam said, my name's Katy. I work as an illustrator and I also work in TV in the art department. And both of those roles are freelance. So I'm self-employed and sort of try and balance the two, really. So when I'm not in a TV contract, I'll sort of be doing illustration work and then vice versa, just like try and puzzle them together in a way that sort of works. But I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, basically. I'm going to be super transparent about that. So yeah, I just thought I'd share a bit about my journey so far. So I graduated in 2020, which was awful. Obviously, I'm not going to say the P word. But yeah, I did a degree in illustration and animation from UCA, which was great up until the P word. And then I obviously couldn't go in and had to do a major project without any facilities, which was lovely. So yeah, after that all happened, I was just feeling really overwhelmed and sort of panicked, and got a retail job, as we do, because I needed some money. But I also started doing, like, I was on good terms with my university lectures, so I did some like little talks about like my journey after graduation. It'd only been like a few months, so there wasn't really much of a journey to tell, but I did them anyway. And was working this job and was doing some like personal projects, like illustrating little bits and bobs, and started doing a bit of freelance, nothing major, just like some little editorial jobs. I did some free work, which I wouldn't recommend. I'll talk about that a bit later. And yeah, just some like little magazine editorials. And then at the start of 2021, the shop shut because of COVID, and I was sort of in a crossroads of, okay, do I get another sort of retail job, like hospitality job, whatever, and keep sort of doing this bit by bit, or do I just take a big risk and just try full-time freelance and see what happens? I decided to do that, which was the best idea looking back, and I'm very glad I did, and I'm very glad that the shop shut, thank you, because I don't know if I'd still be there now, who knows. So yeah, I went full-time freelance and was doing more talks and things. I got a couple of more little illustration commissions, and then from one of the talks I did at my old university, they put me in touch with Maidstone Studios, who are connected to the university, so they teach a course at the studios, and basically there was a job advertised for someone to be part of an art team of a new children's show. And I applied for it, just thinking, I'll just apply for this, sure, why not? Like, I looked at the job spec and it looked really fun, like making crafts and all of this sort of stuff that I thought, yeah, I could do that, sure, why not? And I was sort of flinging my CV out everywhere at this time as well, just to sort of see what stuck. And yeah, I got the job really randomly. I didn't expect to get it, but I did, and started working on that, which was a crazy time, because I just sort of come out of uni, thought I was going to be doing one thing, ended up doing the other, and the illustration work sort of slowed down a bit until I got a really random email from an art director I'd worked on in one of the editorial magazines I'd done, one of the first ones, and she got in touch asking if I wanted to illustrate a parenting book that she was working on. So obviously I did yes to that, even though I was working full-time at this TV job. So I was sort of doing the TV job in the day and then illustrating this book in the evenings and getting really overwhelmed and overworking myself, because I thought I just have to say yes to everything, because nothing might happen ever again, and then it would be really bad. So yeah, so book project was happening, TV work was happening, and then the TV work ended for that new show, and then from that job I got another CBeebies job, and then that sort of extended into 2022. I got onto a CITV show, which was really fun, and then that first TV job I got was recommissioned for an American audience, so it was basically the same show with a new presenter and basically for America. So it was the same show, I just had to repeat everything I'd already done, which was funner than it sounds because it was just like revisiting an old friend. And then I got some more like illustration stuff in the middle of 2022. I got a really nice happy newspaper editorial that I love, and it's one of my favorite things I've done. And then the Sky Kids show got commissioned for series 2, and that sort of takes us to the beginning of 2023, where I met Neil Buchanan, which was the career highlight. I was talking to Sam about this. He signed my toolbox. I've got a pink toolbox. I might get it out later if anyone cares. Yeah, he basically, the shows I've been working on have been sort of kids craft shows, so like Art Attack but new, and it's got a lot of the people that worked in Art Attack working on it. So I'm sort of in this weird kids TV nostalgic world, and they all know Neil Buchanan, and then he just came into Studio One filming day and I was losing my mind. It was so exciting. But yeah, and then after that I worked on a new pilot, and then nothing really came of that. That was just a week long, and then that sort of brings us to now, where I'm just sort of here not really knowing what is happening, but that's fine because that's sort of just being self-employed. You just sort of have to run with it, and yeah, and who knows what's going to come next, really. So at the moment my current website sort of looks like this. So if a commissioner will come to me, they'll pick either illustration or art department, which is great because I feel like I've met quite a lot of people in TV now, and the combination of illustration and art department isn't very common. Like most people that work in the art department come from either like a Techstars background or a set background. So I feel like I'm in quite a unique position where someone will come and be like, oh, I'm interested in her art department work, but oh, what's this? This is like something interesting and new. I don't really see much of this. And then it's just like another string to my bow. So yeah, I'm quite proud of having like the two sort of married together like that. But yeah, illustration stuff. This is sort of what I do. So it's a bit like playful. I like working with handmade textures and collage, but then I'd also do like some editorial stuff. It's really quick turnaround, so I have to do it all digitally. And the happy newspaper one I was talking about earlier, bottom left, that's one of my favorite ones I've done, and that is all digital. And I didn't think that something could come out that nicely being all digital, but you know, you surprise yourself sometimes. And yeah, I really love making illustration work, and I always strive to find more of it. It's just hard to like balance it when I have a TV job on as well, because honestly, TV work pays more. There's not that much budget for illustration work in general at the moment, with all the like AI conversation happening as well. It's a bit like, oh, but yeah, it's a nice thing to do, and I enjoy it a lot. And this is sort of how I find my illustration work. This is a question I always get, so I thought I'd talk a bit about that. So I get almost all my work from emailing art directors or creative directors of brands. So I research the sort of magazines I want to work in or the companies I want to work for, and I'll sort of tailor an email and a like a little PDF mailer towards them. So you want to make sure you always ask, like, say hello to their name, like not just hello art director of company, because that's just really rude. Yeah, so just say a little bit about yourself, some of your previous clients if you have some, or just don't worry about it if you don't. And then specifically name the publication or company, and then do your research. Like if you are emailing a company that don't have any illustrators like commissioned in the website or in their works, then why are you emailing them? So pick out some work that you like and sort of complement it and say that you'd like to work to create something similar. Yeah, that's always quite nice as well. because when I do get replies, they'll often sort of reciprocate that and compliment some of your work and be like, oh, thank you, that's lovely, I really liked this in your portfolio. So, and it's also good to know what they're looking at in your portfolio. So yeah, you know what is being like highly regarded, so maybe like move that higher up, and yeah, things like that. So yes, and then I talk a little bit about my work, and then always put your website link there so it's easy to find, and then specifically say that you hope to work together. Work, not free, work. I would like to be paid, thank you. And then thank them for their time, because they're very busy people. And then yeah, just send loads of them off. It's a numbers game, it's not personal, which is what I've found. Just like do loads of research, set aside like a few days of a week and just put them in a little grid. Oh, here's an example of a mailer. So depending on who the potential client is, I'll sort of change these images to reflect their publication. So if it's like a food magazine, for example, I'll change more of these out to be like food related. But yeah, that's keep it under 1 megabyte as well. I think that's what they say, 1 or 2, just so it doesn't clog up inboxes and such. But yeah, so make a little table so you can track all your clients, because there will be a lot of people you're contacting and you might not hear back from many of them. I don't hear back from, I think I hear back from like maybe like a third or less, and then I actually get work from maybe like 10 to 15% of people I contact. So it's like quite low. So shoot your shot and just contact people. Like you don't know if you don't try. So just try, even if they're like really big clients that you think you'd never get in a million years, just go for it. Because I've had opportunities that have come up that have been with really big brands that were unfortunately cancelled, which breaks my heart. But you know, I did get that gig. It just didn't go ahead because of reasons out of my control. So, you know, just just go for it. So yeah, this is sort of how I separate my client tracker. So I put the name of the art director, their role. I've just like done a fake one with me, Katy magazine. It doesn't exist. Don't look this up. I'm not looking to hire. But yeah, so, and then the email of the person, the sector they're in, where you found it, because it might be useful later on, and then their website, and then any to do. So if they've replied, I like to send a follow-up email a few months later, maybe like 4 months later or 3 or 4 months later, just to update them, give them a little nudge, because sometimes it's like right time. So if you email someone and they don't reply, and then you give them a nudge 3 months later and they've just had a job in, and they're like, oh yeah, perfect, you're just exactly what I'm looking for at this right time. So yeah, it's really not personal. You just gotta shoot your shot, hope for the best, and keep nudging, but not in a rude way, not like consistently like every week, because that's annoying. But yeah, so that's sort of how I do that. And then I thought I'd pop in a little example of, I think this was actually my first magazine commission. Yeah, so it is. So this one was for 3 full-page illustrations for £300, and another full page for 75. So if you think about that now, it doesn't really make sense anyway, because why would they charge 300 for 3 full-page illustrations and then 75 for another one? Why wouldn't that be 100? But then, you know, whatever. Yeah, if I was to get this email now, I would, number one, severely question it, and also I would what's the word when you negotiate. I was too scared to negotiate, because it was my first job that I was desperate to have a job that was paid for. So I was like, oh my god, yes, I'm going to be paid money, this is so exciting. But yeah, I would question this now, and you just have to sort of weigh up, is this worth it? Is this client going to, like, having this client on my client list, is it going to benefit me in the future massively? You know, is this enough money for me? Because I broke it down now. I didn't then. I break it down now, sort of in like hours it spends to do it, and like the time it takes me to correspond with this person as well. And it wouldn't end up being that much per hour. So I'm not really, you know, that's not my worth to really do this now. But yeah, at the time I took it because we all do things that we regret. But yeah, it was a really great job, and she was really lovely. And actually, leading on from this is the art director that got me the parenting book job. So I don't know, it's a difficult one. I don't have the answer, but yeah, it's hard to know what the right thing to do is sometimes, and you just have to throw yourself in and make mistakes and learn. That's all you can do. But yeah, in terms of pricing, here are some really good resources that I use all the time. So Work Notes have a great freelance guide. I don't know if you can share the PDF round after, Sam, or I can make a list of these. Yeah, because they're really great. The AOI obviously have some like great stuff for members, but they also have some free pricing basics and like a calculator you can use, which is good as well. Lisa Maltby's pricing guide is great. I think it's like a £5, but definitely worth it. And Taryn Brench, if you don't know Taryn, you should, because she's wonderful. I think she's rebranded herself as a design studio now, so she's not technically an illustrator, but at this time she was. And everything I know so far about running a freelance illustration business is literally like my Bible. I love it. And I look at it like every time I get a job or an email in, and she sort of splits it up into sections. So she's got like an example of like an actual brief that she's followed and all of this sort of stuff, and how to price things like properly with like percentages, and she explains it all. It's so clear, like better than I could ever explain how to price a project. So if you really want to know that, you just have to buy her. I think it's, I don't know how much it is. I think it's a tenner. It's like an ebook, but I would really recommend that. Saved my skin a lot of times. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so an editorial rough I thought I'd pop in as well, just because I didn't really know what that was or how to do one when I first started, because it wasn't really something that they told us at uni. So yeah, it's basically really simply just sort of a rough of the work that you're going to produce. So you can see in the black and white version, it's just all like digital and no textures, and then in the final version I've added like all of that detail in, but you just want to suggest like a sense of tone and layout and colors, and maybe a few notes at the bottom, just to sort of help the client understand what your vision is basically. Yeah, so sort of moving on to art department, I've made a lot of strange things over the couple of years that I've been doing this. So I would say it's quite like a niche job in TV, where it's not like, I'm not like working on big films. It's not like super flashy. We're like a tiny little team of 3, maybe 5 of us sometimes in studio. And we come up with kids' craft ideas, just like Art Attack, because Neil Buchanan didn't make any of his art. I'll tell you that for free. It was all the people behind the scenes that made it all. And because of the nature of the show, you sort of have to swap in art that's like the step ahead. So he'll start painting something, and then the camera will cut, and then the art person will swap in the fully painted one, and then he'll go, oh, look at that, it's all painted, and it wasn't him, it was me. Yeah, so that's sort of the job in studio. But I'll work probably up to, how many weeks is it? Quite a lot of weeks, like 12 to 20 weeks before filming even happens, just preparing all of the items. So for the makery that I worked on, we had 25 episodes, and for each episode there were 3 art makes that needed to be fully made with all the different stages, and there would be up to like 20 stages of each make. So like adding up all the numbers, it's like thousands of like art pieces basically. So I spent all my time doing that, and it's great fun, and everyone's lovely, and yeah, such a good time. So that's the makery. And then I worked on a little CBeebies show called Nick Coates Popcast, which is all sort of like cardboard instruments and like black lining and like beautiful set. The set's lovely. And I've done a bit of like graphics work and things, and big castles and tiny little like miniature versions of all the props as well for the puppet segment. Yeah, it's like a really rich and rewarding job, and I absolutely love it. And it is a bit illustration-y, as you can see, like in a sense, like you can see where I'm pulling sort of some of my skills into this role. And in the team as well, it sort of works because we've got the main 3 of us. There's me, Lindsay, who's like an Art Attack golden girl. She's amazing, and she's sort of great at like conceptualizing 3D stuff, whereas I'm more of like a 2D, like they call me the 2D queen, because none of them can do 2D really apart from me. sort of like, we've all got our strengths and we sort of pull together. But yeah, it's a really fun time and I love it a lot. But I came into that quite uniquely. As I said, I sort of networked my way to that job in a sense through doing that talk with my old uni. So I thought that was quite unhelpful for everyone else that won't have that opportunity. But I do know other ways of getting in. So if you email production companies or art directors, you can offer yourself as a art runner or trainee, which is like the entry level position. So yeah, just go watch a show that you like, look at the credits, and then see who the art director is, see who makes the show, what production company it is, and just send loads of emails like with the art directors. Just make a table and put everyone in, and yeah, just track your emails basically, because you never know, right place, right time. In TV world, there's loads of Facebook groups that are used, which sounds weird because you always think of Facebook as like Facebook mums. That's what I think anyway. But it's like there's really big communities on there for art department. I think for some of the groups you need to have some credits, but I think it might just be the second one down. I think most of them you can just join. You don't need to have any art department credits at all. And basically it's just people posting jobs and like asking for advice and posting their CVs and getting feedback and things like that. It's really, really great. Especially the people in TV runners, that one's like buzzing and there's always loads going on in there. So yeah, join those for sure. And then just networking in general, like you don't know, like someone you go to uni with, or maybe even one of your tutors might have worked in TV, just like talk to them about it. I remember when I was in my first year, my tutor worked for Channel 4 for years and years. I had no idea until it was like the end of the year and I sat down to speak with her about it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. So yeah, you just never know. People like have gone like on weird journeys to get to where they are. So part of that might have an effect on your journey too. Yeah, and different events as well. I know Screen Skills at the bottom there, they do I think they're free events called Open Doors, and it's basically where industry people and sort of entry level people can come together and sort of network, which is a really lovely thing. Obviously, like you can hand out business cards or details or anything. And then they also have a trainee finder, which is similar to like just emailing the production companies just to find those like entry level roles. So Screen Skills is a great thing to get into as well. And then there's something called the Triforce Creative Network, or the TCN, and they have a talent pool where you can sort of put yourself in, and production companies will sort of have a look through and hire people from that as well. And I've applied for a few jobs through them. They don't come up super often for art department. It's largely like just regular production or like producer roles or things like that, but they are there. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely yeah, check out the TCN. Yeah, so for the Facebook groups and such, I don't really find I need a CV for illustration at all, like it never comes up, but for art department it definitely does. So this is like my CV at the moment, and I keep it super tailored to TV, and I don't really put any of my illustration stuff in. The only way I put it in is like practical skills, because people that are hiring you for a TV show don't care that you've like done like a magazine commission. They just want to know what TV shows you've worked on, which sounds like really savage, but that's just the reality. Like they just want to know that you're like good at TV stuff, because it's all like so quick and fast paced, and you know what I mean. They obviously talk to them about it when you're there, but like to get the job, they just want to know that you're good at that. And if you don't have any experience, just talk about like transferable skills, obviously. So yeah, so I've just popped in like all the things, like I'm good at Photoshop and Illustrator, and you know I can edit videos and do stop frame animation and all of this stuff that you think might not be relevant, but could be depending on what sort of job you do, because different TV shows require different sets of skills. So yeah. Yeah, so I got asked quite often how I got into doing both illustration and TV, and also sort of why. The how was just sort of random, but the why, when I thought about it and sat down and thought about it, they do complement each other. Like I said, I'm sort of like a rare combination of illustration and art department, so people are intrigued by that quite a lot, and I get feedback that's like, oh, I was really interested looking at your portfolio because of all your like illustration stuff and the blah 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 blah. So I do think they complement each other, definitely. And it's also nice for an illustration client to see that you know, like I go out in the world and do other bits, and you know, I'm collaborative. So it's just like, yeah, I do think they complement each other. Honestly, another reason is it's more financially sustainable for me. Definitely, like to diversify my income like that is like changed my life in like too short a way. If I was just doing illustration work and focusing on that, I can't really see a way for me personally that it would have been as financially viable, just because I don't earn like the proportion of money I earn in illustration and TV is like so skewed towards TV. But I just love being an illustrator, so I'll always do it. I'll always find a way. But yeah, I also learn new skills that can sort of cross over from one to the other. So I used to solely work in 2D in my illustration work, and I really gone outside my comfort zone working in TV because I have to work in 3D, and I used to hate it. I remember when I was doing my art foundation, we went on like a carousel of all the different types of art and design, and when I had to do the 3D for a week, I was like, oh, I hate this, I'm never going to work in 3D, oh, it's disgusting. And here I am working in 3D for a job. It's absolutely absurd. But yeah, so just like being open and learning those new skills has really helped me just be better as a creative in general, but then also like I can bring that into my illustration work and to make some like more 3D illustrations. And I'm interested now in like 3D paper cuts and like making like miniature little sets because I love working like teeny tiny. So yeah, they definitely sort of manipulate each other, and it's just a really lovely thing. Sort of goes along with diversifying income, but there's just more options for me. I can sort of shift my focus if I'm getting a bit like brain difficult with illustration. I can just be like, right, okay, I'm going to try and get some more TV work. Or if the TV horrible producers are being mean, I can be like, oh, this is not working for me at the moment, I just want to like do some illustration work. So it's nice to like have that option, I guess, to sort of switch and do something different. Yeah, working with people in person, I put, because when you're self-employed and working from home a lot, it's really lonely and you don't have that community around you to bounce ideas off or to just like have a chat with, or you know, just like get things off your chest. And it's so nice to work a sort of like 9 to 5 job. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like more like 7 to 7 sometimes in TV, but that's just that's the way it is. But yeah, it's nice to be around people basically. And yeah, alongside the like learning new skills, it's creatively fulfilling for me. I just find it like really like refreshing to do different stuff. So I thought this, I mean, I thought it was a good idea, but now it looks a bit mental. I'd make a little Venn diagram of all the different sort of skills that are used in illustration and TV, and then the ones in the middle that sort of are the same. And I was thinking about this, and there are definitely more in common. So drawing skills, obviously, I use those in both. There's really quick turnarounds where you utilize like being able to adapt to those. And so I could have like an illustration commission that comes in and they say, oh, I need you to do this like by tomorrow. And I'm like, oh God, okay, that's fine, I can do that. And then in TV, I might get an email saying, we need you for this job, but it's in Sheffield, can you drive there tomorrow? And then I'm like, yes, okay, sure. So it's like both can be really fast paced. So that's definitely a skill that I'm used. And then creative problem solving, yeah, obviously both of them. Networking to get ahead, yeah, so definitely that. Attention to detail, but also can be a negative one, having to prove yourself every time you have a new job. Yeah, so obviously when you work in a salary job, for the most part, your boss is always the same. You're always answering to the same person or the same group of people. You're working with the same people all the time, so they sort of know that you're like reliable and good at your job. But then when you're self-employed and every job is new with a new set of people, and you sort of have to prove yourself every time that like you are worthy of being there. Obviously they think you are, they wouldn't have hired you, so always think of that. But then there's always that part of you that's like, oh, I need to make them know that I'm good enough. I need to be like really good at this job, and that happens every time, and it can be exhausting. Maybe that's just my experience, I'm not sure. but it's just like, yeah, that sort of, oh, I'm new here again. I have to sort of assert myself and let these people know that I'm great. Yeah, drinking lots of tea. I do those in both jobs, definitely. Being able to organize my time and prioritize stuff. Sending invoices, because both jobs are self-employed, freelance. So yeah, I send invoices for all of my work. And being able to negotiate my rate, because you can negotiate rates in TV. It's just they're a bit more set. They're something called a BEC2 rate card, which is a like a recommended rate for each sort of band of TV. So TV is split into different bands, and the bands are how big the TV budget is. So depending on the budget is how big your rate can be, essentially. But there's like fluctuations with that, obviously. Yeah, dealing with rejection. I get loads of rejection. Like, it's such a big part of being a creative in general, but especially being freelance, because you're constantly putting yourself out there and you are constantly getting rejected. And I don't think enough people talk about it. Like, you always put like your shiny, sparkly things that you did get and things that you got to work on here, but then you don't put all of the millions of other things that didn't happen over here. Like, no one ever sees that, but there is loads of it, and it's fine, and it's not personal. It's just the reality of doing this job, and you just have to get a bit of a thick skin with it and just be like, okay, that didn't happen, but something else will, and I'm going to go and get that. Yeah, and also dealing with no work is a big part of both jobs. Unfortunately, at the moment for me, illustration's quite quiet and TV is quite quiet because there are loads of writer strikes in America, and it sort of affects how, if things are being filmed here or not. So yeah, it's quite quiet at the moment, but you have to deal with that, and you have to move forward, make your own projects, do stuff for you, and just find a way, essentially. So how do I juggle it all? I don't. I don't at all. I've graduated in 2020, and I've only been doing this for full time less than just 2 years ish. It's hard, but I love it, and I want to keep doing it. And there are ways to sort of make it work for you. So it's quiet for me at the moment. I've just finished a big job and things are quite quiet, but I'm also getting to spend more time with my family. I like loads of time with my family, and I would hate to think that in maybe a week, maybe a month's time, and I'm really busy again, but I looked back on this time and I was really sad about it, and I was really like stressed the whole time, right? When I've had all of this time to put into my personal life and do things that I couldn't do when I'm really busy. So learn to enjoy the quiet, definitely. If you're really worried about the future when you're in a job, so say I'm doing a TV contract and it runs out in like a week and I'm going to be doing nothing, then start looking for work before that contract ends, and then hopefully you can sort of merge one into the other. I definitely don't do that, and I just sort of finish the job and then panic. So this is as much a reminder to myself as it is to everyone who's listening. But yeah, I would recommend doing that. I know people that do that and it works for them, so obviously that's something to do. Know your worth. So make sure you don't just say yes to everything because you're scared that nothing else will come up. It will. You've just got to enjoy the quiet. I'm just saying all of these words over and over again, but they all sort of link together. Yeah, and don't just do things for free just because you think you should, or you think, oh, I don't have any clients, so I'm worried about not being taken seriously. You are a practicing artist, whatever you are, an illustrator, graphic designer, you are that thing. You don't need clients to prove that you are. You're already doing it. And it pays much better to be making projects, personal projects that you can show a client that is great than doing a really bad bit of paid work. Because I've done loads of really bad paid work that aren't on my portfolio at all because it's terrible. But yeah, I would have much rather not taken that low paid job and made a project that was actually meaningful, actually good, and that was proud to share. So yeah, that goes into develop your practice as well. Just try new things. Yeah, take a course, take a class, like watch some like weird tutorials on YouTube about how to make like a clay octopus. Do you know what I mean? Just like whatever, just do something different. And it helps you keep your like creative spark alive as well. Yeah, try and diversify. as well. So if you're just an illustrator, you just do illustrations, why don't you start setting up a shop and selling your bits, or start looking into animation maybe, and how you can move your illustrations, just like anything to sort of set you apart, and makes you feel like you're doing stuff. Maybe plan the year. Again, something I need to do, I don't. So maybe if like I know, for example, that for me, TV work gets quite slow in like November, December, January time. It gets like quite dead. So maybe I should start looking for a lot more illustration stuff then. Or maybe over summer when it's quite busy, maybe I should start looking for work to sort of cover the like September, November. Just figure out, like, you can't really do this until you've been working for a little bit, but figure out what your year sort of looks like when it's quiet, when it's busy, and just sort of try to fill the gaps in, maybe with markets if you want to sell stuff, or whatever. And then the last one is sort of reflect and feel proud, because there was a time when I was working in that retail shop and I thought I'd never get out of it, and I'd just sort of be stuck there forever, just sort of doing little jobs that I didn't really want to do, and then doing little commissions that didn't really get me anywhere. But yeah, I feel like for me, that is working in the way I am now is just like so far away from what I ever thought I could be, like even 3 years ago when I was working in that shop. So yeah, just keep an open mind about opportunities that come your way, and don't just disregard something because you think, oh, I've not done that before, I don't want to try it, or think that you can't, because I used to hate working in 3D. And here I am working in 3D. Yeah, so that's sort of I think that's sort of it.
Thank you so much, Katy.
That's all right. I hope I didn't just go on and on. I
love that. I love that. I love this, all the little kind of, and as you say, like how different it is to what you thought you'd be doing is really interesting as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, you just kind of taken the plunge and sort of gone for it.
Risk taking all the way.
Yeah. So yeah, do feel free to put any questions in the chat, or as I say, use the hand emoji if you want to kind of unmute and just ask. Go ahead. That's we love the questions. I do want to point out that Kelvin in the chat recommended Film Buddy for TV jobs as well, just in case anyone missed that. I had a couple of questions I jotted down as you were talking, if that's all right.
Oh, go for it.
Do you use any sort of project management tools or anything? I saw you have the Excel sheet that you use to kind of track, who you've contacted and stuff. And you mentioned like setting reminders. Do you use any like apps for that, or do you just sort of look at that manually every day and stuff?
I actually don't, and I have had a look at some before. Like Notion one. Yeah. So I've had like a little look, but I just think, not that I'm like not technologically like good enough for them, but I just like, for me personally, I'd much rather, like, I'm a diary and piece of paper girl, like at heart. So I just think as long as you're planning stuff in a way that works for you, just like do that. But yeah, they are meant to be really good at like planning like stuff. But yeah, I literally just do a spreadsheet, and then I'll write in my diary, like I'll find the date and be like, right, email person again on like 3 months later. So it's just sort of like more of a physical thing for me. But yeah, do you use them quite a lot?
Yeah, I feel like I've dabbled in a few. I've tried Notion, but then I've got so many tabs now, I just get lost in my own chaos. I've
got a fear of too many tabs. I don't know what it does. It like does something to my brain where like I just stop.
I know exactly.
Too many. No, I can't.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've moved to sort of Google Docs now. That's my kind of thing. Yeah. I
think a lot of people are using Google Docs.
Yeah, I find that helpful personally.
They use it a lot in TV as well. Whenever I've had a job and we sort of have to like transfer scripts over, whatever, it's all Google Docs. So maybe that's like the place to be.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. We've got a question from Faye. She says, how do you handle stress being self-employed?
How do I handle stress? That's a great question. I mean, realistically, not very well, but then also I just make sure I do things that are for me and not related to my business. It's hard to do that when you sort of are living your business, like living and breathing it. It becomes like sort of intertwined with like your personal life. And because my studio is at home as well, it's just in the spare room. It's like I go from one door into another and I'm suddenly in like sleep mode. But then if I go in here, it's work mode. But then sometimes I like do things in here like read. But it's like it's weird. I would say designate space, but also designate time to just do stuff that's like completely separate from like work. Just do stuff that's play, and try and separate them, especially in the day. Like give yourself a maybe not a 9 to 5, because the beauty of freelance is that you can like work whenever, but like set times where I'm working from this time to this time, and then I'm going to have a break on lunch and go for a walk and meet up with a friend, and then I'm going to work from this time to this time, just so you're a bit more like treat it like a job, because it is.
Yeah, very good. Especially when you're self-employed, it's very easy for it to just bleed into everything.
Yeah, I've lived that life. It's horrible.
Yeah, for sure. Yumi's asking, how did you create your website? Did you do it yourself, or did you use a web designer?
I just use Wix, honestly. I made like, I think for one of my uni modules we had to make a website for like a professional practice module, and I just made it in Wix and then just kept it and just changed my you can buy a domain for really cheap. I think I got mine on Namecheap. It's like £10 a year or something mental. So I just did that, and then they're super customizable. You can sort of make anything a button. So I just sort of like do some drawings, scan them in to Photoshop, and then export them as like JPEGs or whatever, and then you can use them as like buttons on your website. It's just watching tutorials and stuff. But yeah, I think Wix is a good one for that, and Squarespace is quite good, I've heard people say, and Cargo as well. But yeah, you don't need to hire anyone to do it for you if that's not something in your budget. You can just really easily learn. They're like super user friendly. So yeah.
Cool. And Sansia says she loves the play on your name, the Illustrator.
Thank you. I love a good pun, always have.
Yumi's also asking, do you know any illustration agencies? Would you recommend any?
As like recommend any as in becoming on their roster and like having them as an agent?
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't have an agent, and it's not really something I'm looking into right now. I think there are pros and cons of agencies, and you sort of have to look at what an agency can offer you. I think a lot of the time, especially when you're at uni or graduating, it seems like really aspirational, like, oh my God, I'd love to get an agent. Which obviously for some people it really works, but for others it's just like doesn't really add anything to you. Like, are they really finding you work? What's sort of the commission rate on that? Like, are they going to take a lot of the money? And there's a lot of things to consider basically. So I would do your research for sure. There are loads and loads of I'm not sure where you're from, but in the UK there's loads and loads of agencies around. Just to name a few, there's like Bright Agency, there's like Crush Creative, How Do You Do Agency is a really nice one, but then a lot of them are like quite small and have like quite a select number of artists on their roster, and if you're sort of similar to that artist then they won't take you. So yeah, and you've got to have like a really established, like, I don't think an agency would be interested in me because my work can be a bit like not exactly the same style, and I feel like that's what agencies sort of like. But yeah, you just have to do some research for sure.
Great. Kelvin, do you want to unmute? You've got your hand up.
Hey.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask, are we getting this sent to our emails, this recording?
Not the record. The recording will go onto the Tern Heads platform, but I can send the deck around for you.
Okay, great.
Slides. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you.
I'll send that on email afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
Claudia is asking, is there any chance, who would you know to contact or work in book illustration?
Oh, so you want to contact publishing houses, or I think a lot of book illustration comes if you have an agent, because they're quite connected to publishing. So that would be another pro of having an agent, I guess. But yeah, so for the book that I did, I was contacted by a freelance art director. So she doesn't just work in publishing, she just works across loads of projects and just hires illustrators for whatever she's working on at the time. But it was sort of chance and luck that I got that book job. But yeah, for actual publishing, depending on what sort of sector you're looking to go into, there's like kid illustration and all of these different, up to like, you know, YA and all sorts. Yeah, I'd contact publishers and maybe go, I think it's creative director at publishing houses would be the best port of call. Yeah.
Awesome. What I'll do is I'll collate all these answers from you as well at the end, and then
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
send
yeah,
that around too, so that everyone's
that's a good idea.
the names and the links. Yeah. Any other ones? What are the pros and cons of being a freelance illustrator?
Oh, pros and cons. The pros are I get to choose who I work for. Definitely, like the choice element is huge for me. The cons are there's not always work. Have I thought about quitting and just finding a salary job? Yeah, like I think about it frequently. Will I? Probably not at the moment. Will I in the future? I don't know, maybe I will. Yeah, there's so many pros. Like it's just so fun to work on new things all the time, and it's not stagnant. It's like free flowing and you can do whatever you want. Like being freelance doesn't have to mean working with clients. It can mean like making your own stuff, selling it, and you know, or collaborating with other artists to make stuff. So yeah, there's just so much scope. Like there's so much you can do with it. Definitely.
Yumi's asking as well, do you need any kind of specific license to be a freelance illustrator, or how did you kind of set up as a freelance illustrator?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you want to register as a sole trader. This is in the UK. If you register as a sole trader, if you start earning money, basically you have to, if you earn up to £1,000, and you have to start paying tax on it. But if you're not earning up to £1,000 a year, then you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, you do your tax return as well every year, which is sort of telling the government what you've earned, and then they'll charge you tax on it. And you can also put your expenses on it. So you can say, well, I bought all of this art material stuff, and then that will be taken off your tax, so you pay less tax. But yeah, just registering as a sole trader, that's all you need to do. And then then the magic happens. You know what I mean? That's literally it. Yeah, it's really simple.
And that's on HMRC, isn't it?
HMRC, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I also wanted to ask you, like you mentioned that initially when you graduated and you first started doing projects, you were quoting like hourly and stuff. And now you reflect back on that and think maybe that wasn't right. I just wondered, is that like, do you price your time differently now? Do you kind of approach it as a project kind of rate or a day rate? Yeah, how do you do that now?
Yeah, it hugely depends on who the client is and what the project is. So if it's like a really quick turnaround project that's only going to take like a couple of days, then I probably do a day rate. But if it's like a huge, like a more like longevity project, it's going to have loads of like feedback and revisions, and you're going to have to change things. And then I'd probably quote for like maybe, it's hard to say, maybe like a day rate, but then also a rate if things are revisited. So when I have like a big project, I'll send them a contract that's got like my terms in it. So if the project is cancelled before I've returned the initial sketches, I get X% of the money that I would have got, just so you're not like out of pocket, if that makes sense. I do have a contract that I could send around as well, just so everyone can like have a look at it. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pop that in the PDF as well. It basically just reads out all of your terms, and then yeah, it just makes it clear for the client and for you. But yeah, it really depends on the project. It's hard to answer like pricing questions, because it's like, well, if I don't know, maybe I should have included like a full example. There's a really great one in Tern's book. I know I keep plugging it, but it's so good. Literally helps me every time with pricing.
That's great. I mean, yeah, I'll include the link to her ebook as well in the email that I'll send around for everyone. So there's reference for that. That does sound really helpful. Any other questions? Oh, do you experience any art thieves taking
Ooh.
work from your website and social media? How do you protect them?
Personally, no, I haven't, but I have seen people that have like places like Shein sometimes steal artists' work and sort of use them in their design or whatever. But yeah, I think it's hard to know what to do because you don't want to put watermarks and everything because it's just so ugly. But yeah, I think the only thing you can really do as an artist is just to sort of like hope it doesn't happen. If it does, I think you can contact small claims court to sort of get, depending on where they're from. It's a hard one, that. I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that question, but yeah, I don't think I'm big enough for people to steal stuff from.
I know what you mean. I think it's one of those things like you can put in your website footer and things that every site is copyright to you.
Yeah. And that's all you can really do, and then I'm sure people just ignore that as well.
yeah, it's a bit crap, really. It's one of those things. Yeah, you just got to sort of message them if it happens and hope they take it down. But yeah, there's not really much. I don't think that, as far as I'm aware, anyway. I don't think there's much you can do about that.
No, it's just one of those things, unfortunately.
Any other questions? Oh, what is your opinion on AI art and NFTs?
Oh, yeah, it's a stressful one, isn't it? Because you can see why people are getting up in arms about, because it's basically stealing artists' work, right? And just regenerating it to look like something else, but it's just stolen artwork. And also it just looks really ugly. So that's my opinion of it. It's stealing artwork and it's mostly really ugly. Like every time you see an image, you're like, oh God, what is that? What are those hands? Yeah, I don't know if it could ever replace a person. Like I say this, I talk about this a lot with my friends, but you're not hiring an artist just because of their art. You're hiring a person to do that job, and you know that's like such an invaluable thing that you can't replicate with a machine. So I don't know, I feel like the companies and places that are using AI art, you wouldn't want to work for them anyway. Like I wouldn't want to be commissioned by you anyway, so go ahead, you do whatever. I think the good companies, the genuine ones, I don't know if they're going to hop over, but I don't know, maybe they will, and it's just we're going to have no work. But let's hope not, that would be terrible.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of, it's got art generated by people, it's got soul, it's got a story, it's got a craft to it, and don't know if AI could ever match that, really.
There was this really funny post that I keep seeing everywhere, and it's like something like, in order for AI to take over, clients actually have to know what they want, which I thought was really funny.
Very true. It'd just be a giant logo. Make the logo bigger. Yeah.
It's so true.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions? Yumi's asking about greeting cards.
Oh yeah.
Links as well. Maybe we can add that to the list that we'll send around on email afterwards, because that will probably link in with some of the other ones you've already mentioned. I would have thought for that. Yeah, I think I've caught all the questions. If you do have any other bits that you would like to ask Katy, then I will just drop details in the chat now so that you can follow her on social media, because you do as well. You've done some talks among freelance illustrators yourself as well, haven't you? So so keep an eye if you do any more of those as well, because they were
for sure.
So
definitely message me afterwards if anyone wants to like have a chat, or anything. I'm happy to have chats on like Instagram or message me on LinkedIn for sure.
Fantastic. Well, guys, we've come to the end of another Tern Heads event. I hope you've enjoyed it and you've learned something new. Again, if you did find this content helpful and you wish to support what we're doing, then please do tell your friends about us, and sign up and follow us on ternheads.com and on social media. The replays of all our event videos do go up on the platform. And we have some interviews on our YouTube channel as well. I will send around the deck and some of the kind of agencies and connections and resources that Katie's mentioned as well on email to you guys who have joined us today. Other than that, thank you so much, Katy, for sharing such brilliant tips.
Thank you.
Helping others to achieve their creative career goals.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's been great. And yeah, that's it for now. And we'll see you at the next one.